Hi everyone, and welcome to Creative Chelsea. Today I'm going to be sharing with you 3 fun ideas that you can do with the amazing Silhouettes stamp set. What I like about this stamp set is it's really simple and creates some really beautiful images. However, it might feel like there's not a lot of ideas that you can do with these images because they're very specific. Today I'm going to share with you some fun ways to make these images stand out just a little bit more using 3 different ideas. If you are new to my channel and want to see more of my videos, click on the subscribe button and then the bell for notifications. I would love to be your Stampin' Up! Demonstrator and help you with any of your paper crafting needs. To purchase any of the products you see today, please visit my online store and the link is in the description below. So let's go ahead and begin with this fun idea. So this one creates a watercolor wash in the background, which gives us some fun variety of colors and textures for the inside of the silhouette. And then we simply stamp on that watercolor after it has dried. To create the watercolor and all the layers of color, I'm going to begin with some markers. And you could also use ink pads for this. But you're just going to add some ink to a clear block. Take a Stampin' Spritzer and you're going to add water with a couple spritz. And then you simply just stamp this onto some basic white cardstock. Give that a minute to soak in and you can go to the next color. So I am going to just clean off that first color before moving to a little darker. This one I'm using polished pink. The first color I used was the Fresh Freesia. And you can rotate the water to make sure you get all the ink picked up and then smash that down. It can go right over the first one or you can move it to another place on your paper. Now, the nice thing about this particular technique is that you can use your basic white cardstock because we're not brushing over the cardstock. We are just adding color directly to it. And so it doesn't, even though it will warp the cardstock, it won't ruin the actual texture. And when it dries, it will still have that nice soft texture that we love with our basic white cardstock. So now I'm using Highland Heather. And this time I'm going to stamp it a little bit off to the side, just so that I can see a little bit of the pink and purple on that piece. So now I'm going to go ahead and put this off to the side to let it dry. And I do already have one that I have done already, which is nice and dry. And we can go ahead and take the stamp. And I'm going to use Misty Moonlight and ink that up and then stamp it right in the center of that watercolor. So then you can cut this out with any shape die that you want. For my card, I've used the layering circle dies, and it's about a 2-inch circle or so. Okay, so now I'm ready to add that to my card. I've got a card base of thick, basic white cardstock. And that's just your regular size, which is 5.5 by 8.5 and scored at 4 1/4. I have a piece of basic white that is 4 inches by 5 1/4 that I have already cut some really pretty stitching on with the stitched greenery die. And it just is one die, it's nice and big, and it creates this really pretty leaf stitching pattern. And that's going to go on my front in just a second. I do have 2 rectangles that are from Misty Moonlight, and I'm going to have those meet in the middle. They're a little bit long, and so I'm going to cut off a little from each side. Their original size is 2 1/4 by about 1 inch. I could also have them overlap if I wanted to in the center. So this is going to be that piece here that goes all the way across. I didn't have a die that was as long as I wanted, but it was as thick. And so that's just one little technique, is that you can cut 2 and then hide the joining area underneath another element. I'm going to use my grid paper to make sure it's all lined up and even. And I'm going to have it sit maybe about 1 1/4 or so inches from the top. Just eyeball that going across. So you'll get something like this. Then I'm going to take about 20 inches of the Misty Moonlight and White Twine that's in the Flowers for Every Season combo pack. And I'm just going to wrap that around and tie it on the right side of the card. I do like to do a knot just to kind of hold everything in place, and then I'll tie a bow. And then this can be added to my card base now. And then we're going to pop up our main element with dimensionals. And that's just going to go in the center to cover up that opening. And then we're going to add a greeting. And the greeting I'm going to use comes from the Happy and Heartfelt stamp set. And I want to use the congratulations. There's some really great greetings in that stamp set. And I'm going to stamp that in Misty Moonlight. And I've got a 1/2 inch strip that's about 2 3/4 inches. And just try to find the center. And then if you want, you can flag the ends. You can either use the Pick-a-Punch or just take a pair of paper snips and you're just going to cut a little into the center from one end and then trim each side into the top of that cut line. So from the corner to the top of the cut line. And that's going to give you a banner piece. And that gets added with a dimensional on the right side and then a little bit of adhesive on the left where it's going to touch the bottom of that butterfly piece. And then that can just go near the bottom right here, like that. Then I do want to add some embellishments, and I have this Silver and Clear Epoxy Essentials. I'm going to use the silver, and it comes in 3 fun shapes. There are circles, diamonds, and kind of like a raindrop. And I'm going to use the circle ones here. They kind of mimic the circle of our main element. Just a couple on top and then one near the bottom. And that card is all done. Quick, simple, and really fun to get that fun watercolor effect for the background of those silhouettes. So now that I've shown you this technique with one of the stamps, I want to also share with you how you can do it with the other 2. So the other one is kind of a leaf image, and this time I have used green ink and then stamped in a darker green ink and then cut it out with a stitched rectangle die. And then for the tree, I used different colors of ink and started kind of with a blue at the top and then moved into some green, which is fun because it gives you kind of that variation of color that we're loving, and then stamped with a darker green or even black for the tree. For technique number 2, we're going to do another quick and simple technique, and we're going to be outlining this silhouette. And you can see here that the outline doesn't need to be perfect, which makes this technique really fun. So I already have cut out some soft sea foam cardstock with a stitched rectangle die, and it is about 3 inches by 2 inches, just a little shy of 2 inches. I'm going to bring in some scratch paper. I'm going to use garden green ink and stamp my image right in the center of this rectangle. So you'll get something like this. Next, I'm going to take the Misty Moonlight Stampin' Write marker, and I'm going to go ahead and outline this image. And the tops of the leaves in the stamped image are kind of rounded, but I want to change that into more of a pointy leaf shape. So I'm just going in there and making them be any shape that I want. So it's just a really fun way to create a unique look for this stamp set. So then I'm going to come down and connect all these leaves with some stems. Just like that. Super quick and simple. Now that we've got that image ready for our card, we can put our card together. I've got another card base of thick basic white and another piece that has been cut with the stitched leaves dies. So I'm going to go ahead and add this first to my card. Then I want to add a little bit of that same baker's twine, and I'm going to wrap it around the base of my main piece here. And I want to wrap it around twice and then tie a bow on the right side. And I'm using, it's about 20 inches just like before. Just like that. And then we can add that to our card with dimensionals. And that just goes right in the center. Then for our greeting, I'm going to use that same stamp set, the Happy and Heartfelt, and I'm using the thank you right there. I'm going to stamp it in Misty Moonlight ink. And I've got another 1/2 inch strip. Just stamp it right in the center. And then we are going to trim it into 2 different sections. So just take a pair of paper snips and cut between the 2 words. And then we are going to pop those up with dimensionals as well. So if you have the mini dimensionals, this is perfect for that. When I am doing a greeting like this and have separated it, I usually will start with the bottom one or the one that I want to like anchor, and then I'll add the others around it. So maybe something like that. And then, just like before, we'll finish it off with some silver epoxy essentials. And for this one, I wanted to use the raindrop, and it can go in different directions. 2 up there and then 1 down in the bottom corner. And so that card is all done. And I'd like to share with you some ideas with the other images, just like before. So this one's been stamped on some white cardstock with the Just Jade ink pad, and I've used the Evening Evergreen Stampin Write marker to create that outline. And I just think it has a really fun, bold look. I love that. This one is a lot simpler of an image. I've stamped it in Highland Heather and then outlined it with the polished pink Stampin Write marker and then filled in some of those details there. And for this one, just to give it a little bit more, I did do a double line around the butterfly. You could, of course, add more details inside those wings, like different designs or shapes. I wanted to keep it simple. For our last technique, we're going to be playing around with the Emboss Resist technique. You can see here that I have used white embossing powder, and then I've colored in with multiple colors inside of the silhouette. So this is just a really fun technique, and I love the different looks that you can get with it. To begin, you're going to start with a piece of basic white cardstock, and I like to use an embossing buddy. This is just going to remove any little sticky areas or fingerprints so that I can get a nice embossed image. I'm going to use Versamark on my stamp. And then just stamp that in the center. It's a large stamp, so make sure to get good, even pressure. Next, I'm going to apply the white embossing powder over the Versamark, and it's going to stick to the image. And then we can heat it up with our heat tool. And you're just looking for it to melt and get shiny. The next step is to add color, and I'm using the Stampin' Write markers again. So I'm going to start with Misty Moonlight at the top, and this is just really fun because you just add color right into that image. And I'm going to go about 1/4 of the way down and then pick a different color. And this one is the Just Jade. And you can blend those just a little bit and then bring that down to about halfway. Next, I'm going to use Garden Green. Again, blend those just a little. And then last, I'm going to use a nice dark color with the Evening Evergreen. All the way down. So you're going to see something like this, and you may notice that the ink that is over the embossed areas is kind of pooling. And so we now need to pick that up with a tissue or a paper towel or something. And so you're just going to begin by rubbing and removing some of that color first. And I'm using just a dry tissue. So you want to get as much as you can off with a dry tissue first. And then I do have an area here that's slightly damp, and I'm just going to use that along the edges to pick up the excess. And you can run this over the whole thing. It's not going to ruin your picture at all, but you will see that some of the color will bleed out onto the outside, and that's okay. And if you have some areas where it's not coming out, that's okay too. Looks like I might have missed the very top of that tree there. There we go. Okay, so then you'll have something that looks like this, and you're just going to fussy cut it out. And that's going to remove any of that color that you may see around the outside and just clean it up a little bit. And you want to make just a nice big border so that you can see some of the white along the outside edge. So now this piece is ready for our card, and I have a piece of thick basic white cardstock as my card base, and another piece that has been cut with the stitched greenery die to create that fun stitched leaf look that we also added to all of our other cards. I'm going to add the tree to a piece of Just Jade cardstock, but I wanted some texture on the back. And so I'm going to actually stamp the same image we just did, so the tree image, in Versamark. And this is just going to give us a nice texture behind the main element. I'm going to stamp it off to the side just a little too, so that we can see two trees kind of in the background. What I like about Versamark is that it can also act as kind of a watermark ink. And so you can just get a nice slight color change when you use it on colored cardstock. So I'll give you a close-up of how that looks. So it's just a really good texture that's not going to be overwhelming for this main image. So this is just going to go down next, right in the center. Then we'll add our main image with some dimensionals. And that goes in the center as well. It's going to go up a little bit higher than my cardstock piece, which I forgot to tell you, the size I used for that is about 4 inches by 2 3/4 inches. And I cut it with the stitched rectangle dies as well. So next I'm going to stamp my greeting, and I've got a piece of basic white cardstock that is 1.5 by 2 1/4 because I'm doing a bigger greeting. And again, this comes from the Happy and Heartfelt set. This one says, "Being awesome is just your thing." I'm going to stamp it off to the left of this piece of cardstock so that I can create a little banner on the right side. And I'm going to just do the exact same thing I did before, and that's to use a pair of paper snips and cut about center and then go from the corner to the top of that cut line. So you'll get something that looks like this, and then that's going to get added with dimensionals as well. You want to leave this left side open because that side's going to go over the tree trunk. And then I'm going to add a bow, and I already have tied one and added some glue dots, and I'm just going to tuck that underneath my greeting right by the tree at the top. Then of course we're going to do the same thing we've done with our others and add some of those silver epoxy elements. And this time I'm going to use the diamond shape, and I'm just going to add them around the main tree element here, and one down by the greeting. And that card is all done. So I also want to share how the other images from the stamp set also look with this technique. So this one you can see I've stamped in Versamark on the back of the circle and then just colored it in really simply again. And of course you can add more details to that butterfly if you want. For the leaf, I thought it'd be fun to create some dimension within those leaves by adding both a light and a dark green color. I used the soft sea foam green and then garden green. And then again, if you can see the Versamark detail in that background. Well, I hope you enjoyed watching me create these 3 cards using different techniques with the Amazing Silhouettes stamp set. If you're interested in getting more instructions on how to create these cards or seeing close-up images, you can visit my blog, creativechelsea.com. Thanks so much for watching. Have a creative day. Bye.